George, this movie is about a man who clones himself. You've done some cloning yourself, right?
No, I haven't.
No, seriously, you've made clones.
Joe, I keep telling you, being a parent isn't the same as making a clone.
Are you sure about that?
Very.
So ejaculate isn't cloning batter?
No.
Too bad. Well, does this still work? The podcast looks at old movies and asks, does this still work? I'm Joe Dixon.
And I'm George Romaka. And today we're discussing Multiplicity from 1996.
Multiplicity, you are my dreams. Multiplicity, you give me beams. I don't know.
I don't know either what the hell you're going for there. And some historical context. First, podcasty stuff. We're excited to announce that we've joined the Creator Accountability Network. CAN is a nonprofit dedicated to reducing harassment and abuse through ethical education and a system of restorative accountability. We joined because we care about the safety and well-being of our community members. If you feel our behavior or content has harmed someone, please report it to CAN, either via the reporting form on their website, creatoraccountabilitynetwork.org, or via their hotline at 617-249-4255. They'll help us make it right and avoid repeating that mistake in the future. CAN also needs volunteers from our communities to help with their work, so if you have skills you think would be helpful, or time and a desire to help, please visit their website to find out how you can volunteer. Most importantly, get the word out to other creators who you think would be interested in getting credentialed. Help us build safer communities together. You can reach us at dtswpod@gmail.com, on Facebook, Letterboxd, and on our YouTube channel. Joe is on Blue Sky at joedixon.bsky.social. Please tell your friends about us, even the ones who will demolish the wrong driveway, and leave 5-star ratings everywhere. You can pick what we watch and get extra per episode content by funding us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/dtswpod.
Now, George, take us back to 1996.
And this is the way it was.
This film is about a father who doesn't have time for his family, and cloning as a solution. So let's look at absentee fathers and clones for this history segment.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, Joe, give us our first headline from the San Bernardino County Sun of San Bernardino, California.
Clinton rein in absentee fathers.
Now, our protagonist isn't an absentee father. He lives with his wife and children, and does see them occasionally. He just works so damn much that he misses important events in their lives, like Peter and Hook. He does financially provide for the family. In fact, he's their sole income. Absentee fathers are those who provided the sperm, and that's where their involvement ended. In many cases, the mother and child end up in the welfare system.
Ooh, I know that system.
Yep. Bill Clinton wanted to make it a requirement that single mothers seeking welfare name the fathers in order to receive it. I'm all for making people accountable for their choices, but that falls into the category of simple solutions that don't solve complex problems. First, it's not like the fathers are usually swimming in cash anyway. Second, a non-zero number of these pregnancies were from sexual assault by people that the mother maybe didn't know. So I'd hope that at most this would be an optional thing, not a mandate.
Indeed. Yeah, there were a lot of things wrong with the way they were trying to reform the welfare system. For myself, I definitely knew the name of my dad, just never met him. We knew who he was. But it's true. There's people sexually abused. There are people who don't want to name the fathers because they don't want anything to do with the person.
Yeah.
And then there is the whole, the father himself not necessarily have any cash. And of course, there's also the issue of, it was rare, but it did happen where women would just name a guy who was not the father because that person just happened to be in a better financial situation than the actual father. And then you gotta prove no, this is not actually my kid, which became a whole other thing.
Yep. Well, the next story shouldn't even be here. Probably.
And yet you put it there.
Yeah, well, when I clicked on it, I thought it was going to be about cloning apple trees, which is a way more involved process than you might think. Basically, every apple tree is a crapshoot and it can generate any kind of apple.
Oh, okay.
The same type an entire orchard is a years-long process.
Okay.
That is, if I'm remembering any of that correctly. Anyway, Joe, give us our second headline from the Oakland Tribune of Oakland, California.
Clones. The impact of Apple's much heralded cloning effort has been largely invisible.
Joe, you know how both of our computers that I built run Windows, and so do a bunch of other computers from other manufacturers?
Yep, sir.
Well, Apple has historically been a more closed proprietary ecosystem. In fact, I didn't know until I read this article that they ever licensed their operating system to run on anyone else's hardware. Well, they did. And guess how well that went?
Not well?
No. They licensed their operating system to 5 other manufacturers. 4 of them flopped, and one could only sell 2% of what Apple could in the first year. I do research to see if that got better, but I'm pretty sure it didn't, because I'm a computer nerd, and I haven't seen anyone else even trying to run iOS on anything else.
And iOS is their operating system?
Yeah. It used to be Mac OS, and then they came out with the iPhone, and then they decided to just unify everything into something.
Now, why, I guess just because they get cornered of the market, why do they have their own operating system as opposed to a more general one that everyone can use? If I'm expressing that question correctly.
You can do anything on any Windows or Linux computer that you can do on a Macintosh computer, but Macintosh computers cost like 10 times more. It's an exclusivity thing. It's making the brand count more than the worth.
But it doesn't do anything special. It doesn't do anything more than a regular computer can do,
It does some things easier, but unless you're doing those very specific things, any other computer is better.
Okay.
And even for those things, it's not that other computers can't, it's just other computers you might have to go out and buy software for it instead of it coming with the computer.
Gotcha. Okay.
That was about a weird kind of cloning. Now we're going to talk about actual cloning. So, Joe, give us our last headline from San Francisco Chronicle of San Francisco, California.
A sheep is a sheep is a sheep. In a country known for liver pudding and loch monsters, you think the Scottish scientists could have chosen a more interesting animal to clone.
The article is less informative and more some dork making puns and jokes about cloning sheep. Let's start with his opening paragraph. Listen, any nation that invents both golf and Scotch whiskey is a superpower in my book, but all superpowers have their flaws. The British Empire oppressed its colonies. The Soviet Union murdered millions of its own people. The United States produced Baywatch. Scotland has a thing for sheep.
I assume those are supposed to be amusing or something?
Yeah, the worst thing the United States had done as of 1986 was Baywatch. Not slavery, not displacing, murdering, and interring First Peoples, not our own colonial transgressions, not dropping nuclear weapons, not shooting students, not enabling gun violence. No. Baywatch.
Well, I mean, it is true.
It is true. He asks some rhetorical questions, and one of my favorite things to do is answer those.
Okay.
So we're gonna. Why would anyone want to clone sheep? Well, the thing with cloning sheep is it wasn't about the sheep. It was about cloning. Specifically, it was about cloning a medium-sized mammal. Sheep are a good candidate because they are slow, dumb, and docile. But in this case, all we have are genetically indistinguishable sheep. What's the point of that? Well, assuming the goal is to clone sheep, specifically, it would make more of the best sheep. The fluffiest or meatiest, whatever you need from them, you clone those ones with those genes. Well, with all the problems in the world, why are scientists wasting time making identical sheep? Because science is an iterative process, and the tools and techniques they develop for this endeavor would go on to be used and refined in other endeavors that you might be more accepting of.
Yes, and just before you go on to your next rhetorical question, I did want to hammer that home. Whenever you hear a scientist operating on something and some dummy somewhere goes like, oh, why are they spending money on that? Because they're learning. These things develop into other things. It's not always the most obvious, like, oh, there's like heart medicine. Oh, it turns out it gives you boner pills. We don't know. You keep experimenting, and that's how you find out discoveries.
Yep, exactly. Well, wouldn't it make more sense to be cloning endangered species? Not if your cloning process is still in its infancy. You don't want to make the survival of an entire species dependent on a process you haven't perfected yet. And what would you clone? Alright, well, I don't have anything particular I would clone. Only a specific thing that I wouldn't, and that's me. Joe, how about you? Do you have anything specifically that you would or would not clone?
You wouldn't clone yourself?
I wouldn't clone myself, no.
You wouldn't be interested in two of you?
Nope, we're going to get into that in your questions, I'm pretty sure.
It is, indeed we will. No, there's nothing in particular that comes to mind that I would clone, to be honest. I certainly wouldn't be like, hey, let's make dinosaurs come back or anything ridiculous like that.
Life finds a way.
I mean, I guess I would clone for things so we could have more food. But the honest truth is, we can already feed the world. It's just a matter. It's political is why people stop.
Yeah, feeding the world is a political and logistical matter, not a resource matter.
No, yeah, we got plenty of food.
Cloning things to make food isn't what it sounds like. It's not like, poof, there's a clone. It's, you have created an embryo with the same genetic makeup as something else that you still have to develop, birth, and raise somehow into an adult thing that can provide you food.
Right.
Like, it's just it's a more expensive way of doing what nature already provided, just more precisely in a sense.
So jizz can be clone batter. You said naturally. That's the way it naturally happens, right?
No, because that's the less precise part of it.
Yes, right. Less precise, but
No matter how many wads you shoot, even into the same other person, you're not going to create identical kids unless they like identical twins. All right, Joe, let's talk about Multiplicity.
Let's do that. Okay, this is directed by Harold Ramis. And for the podcast, we've seen his work in Stripes, Analyze This, and Back to School. Both George and I have seen his work in Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2, and I've seen his work in Caddyshack and Meatballs.
And I've seen his work in As Good as It Gets.
This is written by Chris Miller, and for the podcast, we've seen his work in National Lampoon's Animal House. And this is also written by Lowell Gantz. And for the podcast, we've seen his work in Splash and A League of Their Own. And we've both seen his work in City Slickers.
And I've seen his work in Spies Like Us and Robots.
And it was also written by Mary Hale.
Huh. Mary Hale. It's like Hail Mary backwards.
Yes, it is.
Spelled differently.
Blurbs. IMDb says, a family man who never has enough time for the things he wants to do takes advantage of the opportunity to have himself cloned. YouTube says, Michael Keaton and Andy McDowell star in director Harold Ramis' brilliant comedy about a man who clones himself to save his marriage and then almost loses his wife to himself. Overworked and overscheduled, contractor Doug Kinney never has enough time for his wife and family. So, when a helpful geneticist offers to Xerox Doug, it seems like the perfect solution until the clones begin to take over his home, his job, and his bed. Keaton takes on 4 hilariously distinct roles as the comic possibilities quickly multiply in this genuinely funny, touching romantic comedy. Okay. We'll get into that. But here's the characters. Hopefully, George has decided to game them all because they're all Doug Kinney, so I wrote Doug Kinney, Doug Kinney, Doug Kinney, Doug Kinney, and Doug Kinney. And they're all played by Michael Keaton, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And for the podcast, we've seen his work in Mr. Mom and Batman. And both George and I have seen his work in Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen him in The Flash, Morbius, The Trial of Chicago 7, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Spotlight. Laura Kinney is played by Annie McDowell. And for the podcast, we've seen her in 4 Weddings and a Funeral, and we just saw her in Groundhog Day.
Mm-hmm.
And I recently saw her in Ready or Not. She was also in Shortcuts and The Player. Dr. Leeds is played by Harris Yulee. He reminds me of Rip Torn. Every time I see him, I accuse him for Rip Torn. I can't tell the difference between the two men. Anyway, we recently saw him in Bean for the podcast.
I think Rip Torn has more angry-looking eyebrows.
Okay. And are they both dead now? I think one of them is dead.
Don't know.
Well, Harris Yulee is definitely dead. Anyway, and we also saw him in Ghostbusters 2, speaking of being dead, and I've seen him in Clear Present Danger, Scarface, and Rush Hour 2.
Yes, Rip Torn is dead.
So Harris Yulee and Rip Torn are dead. Okay. Well, I'll never confuse them again, I guess. Vic is played by Eugene Levy. And for the podcast, we've seen him in Splash and American Pie. And I've seen him in The Ladies' Man.
And I've seen him in National Lampoon's Vacation. And
before you write in, yes, we know Schitt's Creek, neither one of us watched it. All right, let's get into the plot. Michael Keaton plays a guy who doesn't have enough time for work, family, and me time, so he has a doctor clone him. Hilarity is supposed to ensue as he keeps his clones a secret for reasons George and I will discuss because I'm not clear why it had to be a secret.
Me neither.
Eventually, his wife, Ida McDowell, notices that her husband is acting really weird, leaves him, but comes back when he renovates their house. Literally, that's what happens. Eventually, his clones start another life as triplets, I guess, and everyone lives happily ever after. George, I left out a lot. What would you like to add, if anything?
I don't know. That kind of covers it. It's not a terribly complicated movie.
No, it's not. So let's get into the discussion then.
Okay.
I got 2 questions up front. 1, the copies of Michael Keaton don't have sex with each other, but if they did, would that be incest or masturbation? And 2, in the movie Mickey 17, Robert Pattinson also plays a guy and his clone. In that movie, his girlfriend is turned on by both guys and wants a 3-way, but the original balks at the idea. Would you have sex with your clone and wife/girlfriend? So it's about sex with yourself? Is that masturbation and incest? And then if you had a 3-way, would you have it with yourself and whoever your significant other is at that moment?
All right. So number 1, I don't know if it would be incest or masturbation. It's definitely not masturbation because that is not you. They make the point in the movie that the moment that that clone comes into being and starts having its own life experience, it starts differing from the original.
Right.
So they are 2 different people, even if they have identical genes. So it's not masturbation, because masturbation is you doing things to you. If there's another body involved, it's no longer masturbation. Now you could do mutual masturbation, where you both masturbate yourselves in the presence of the other, but that's still you're still doing that to yourself.
Right.
It's
definitely not incest.
It's not incest because
you're not coming from the same parents. I mean,
nope.
You're literally the same person. So it's not like it's your brother or something. You didn't raise up together.
The use case you do is identical twins.
But even identical twins raised up together. Yeah. This is not the case.
These are just 2 people that happen to be very similar.
Yeah, or exactly the same.
Yeah. Well, again, until the moment it comes into existence, then they're experiencing different lives.
So I think we both can declare that this is neither incest nor masturbation.
Right. And would I have sex with my clone and my wife or my girlfriend? I have all of those. Well, I don't have clones. But no, because I am not interested in threesomes with anybody, not even myself.
That wasn't always true in your life, but we'll move on.
Nope, it's true now because it wasn't true at some point in my life. I experienced that, and the juice is not worth the squeeze.
All right, let's move on. Harris Yulin plays the doctor who does the cloning. Shouldn't he be famous and have Nobel Peace Prizes for science or something? Why does he clone himself and then randomly clone some guy working in construction? Because that's Michael Keaton's character. He's just doing construction around the place, and the guy's like, hey, I can clone you.
In fact, Michael Keaton loses his goddamn temper and beats the shit out of some of the construction that was happening. And then the guy, why would you pick this asshole to clone? Because the script said so. That's why. This is hard. The only reason is because, well, how the fuck else is this going to happen?
Yeah, there's nothing else makes sense. Oh, and also it'd be wildly unethical for them. Just he does no test on him. He doesn't know if this guy can even see if he's healthy enough. You want to clone someone who's got cancer or something? I mean, what? He doesn't know. We see him do no examinations. He's like, hey, I'll just take you and clone you. I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. Sure, there's got to be more to it than that. All right. And again, why is he just cloning himself in this guy? You should be world famous. It makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
If cloning became this advanced and you can make a complete copy of yourself, wouldn't it be a red flag for you to do this and not run it by your spouse first? In fact, this movie ends without her ever knowing what he did.
Yes, Joe. He was 100% in the wrong and stupid for doing this and not telling his wife, or more so, not even consulting his wife before doing it. Yeah, because that's where the romantic comedy part comes in, because you can't have a romantic comedy with people doing relationship ethics well.
But there's no reason why he couldn't have told her. That's the weird part.
No, there's not.
The doctor says, shh.
So the only reason would be that she would have been like, don't do that. That's fucking stupid. That's crazy.
And then we wouldn't have a movie.
Exactly. That's why he couldn't do that, because she would stop the movie from happening.
But they can make her as stupid as he is. I mean, worked in raising Arizona. They were both dumb and kidnapped the baby. Why could she? Oh, cloning, that's a great idea, honey. It's just weird. It really is. Like, why is he hiding?
I don't know. I'd have a hard time believing Andy McDowell's any character she plays would be that dumb.
And again, like, why? Not only does it make no sense that he's keeping this a secret, but the doctor isn't famous. Just so much of this just doesn't make any sense. Anyway, we'll move on.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Eugene Levy there? He doesn't seem to add much to the movie. Eugene Levy, for those who haven't seen the film, and I don't mention him in the summary, but he is in the credits. He is he's sort of friendly. He's not a co-worker, but
he's a contractor. He's a concrete contractor that fucks up at the beginning of the movie. Like, he fucks up. Number one, he's chronically late. And number two, he fucks up jobs.
Right.
And then, like, Michael Keaton, whatever his fucking name is. Doug ends up firing him.
Mm.
And
Doug Clone fires him.
Yeah, Doug Clone fires him. And then at the end of the movie, he brings him back like, hey, I need to redo this driveway. You're the only guy I know that can do it. I've got my clones here. We can be the crew. Could you, like... And he's like, yeah, sure, okay. Pay me. Because I don't have a job and I have a bunch of kids now, as one of the characters astutely pointed out to the Doug to Doug 2 was, yeah, you fired him. He's got like a whole family to feed, dude.
Well, that's another interesting question, something I hadn't even thought about. He reveals the clones to Eugene Levy.
Eugene Levy doesn't bat an eyelash at the clones.
Not bothered by it. I think
if I had to write the joke that was happening there, it was Eugene Levy was for some reason playing a Latino, and all white people look the same to him.
But I just found it interesting. He has no problem revealing it to this man he's not really friends with. He just hires as a contractor. But his wife, it's still a secret. So I didn't realize until you brought it up. I'm like, wait a minute. That's right. Eugene Levy knows, but he can't. It's so dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Is this movie about identity, masculinity, or what? What is the subtext here?
I mean, it's not about identity or because the clones are different. Right, you have Doug, who is Doug, and then you have Clone 1, who is a bit more of a, like, alpha type person, like a type A personality.
Right.
Hyper competent, like, all of, like, his construction expertise went into this clone. Clone 3 is effeminate and probably gay. That's how he's coded. Like, he's coded as effeminate, housemaking type, oh, you can fold clothes this way, which is a thing I fucking do, so fuck you. And then Clone 4, we will talk about in a moment.
Yes.
But, so you can't have one character clone himself into all those different things and it not be something about identity. I don't know what it's trying to say about identity. Or even if it's trying to say anything in particular, I think it's just saying, hey, identity's a thing. Masculinity, the fact that you differentiated two clones by basically how hyper-masculine they are, it's definitely something of that. You have the whole discussion in the movie about him being the sole breadwinner and what it means for his wife to have to go back to work. It's about family and time management more than anything else. And kind of explores identity and masculinity on the way in a very superficial way.
Yeah, and very superficial if it examines it really at all, because he never really acknowledges these guys are different from him, even though they're his clones. Something you think he would bring up at least once. Like, well, you're much more aggressive than I am. Or you seem much more effeminate. Well, we'll get into
into him.
This seems, I don't know. Okay, so I don't think it had any message, really. I don't think there's any subtext. I think it's just a bunch of jokes thrown in there. If this movie's really about anything, I don't know. It's really about management and your time, but even that doesn't make any sense to me. What did you find is the least well-aged joke in this movie? And for me, it's Clone 4, who is clearly supposed to be developmentally disabled.
The only line that I remembered so that Clone 4, number one, can't even remember that he's a clone, and he keeps calling original Doug Steve.
Yes.
The line that I remembered is Clone 4 going, she touched my peppy, Steve.
Okay.
Because at the time that I saw this, which was in the 90s, I thought it was hilarious. But it's not. Like it's literally using some kind of mental health thing as comedy fodder, which is something I come hard against nowadays.
Yes. The line itself can be amusing, but out of the mouth of this character and the way it's written is like, ooh, this is not comfortable at all, at least for me. I'm like, and again, it's not really acknowledged. It's like, does he have some other issues? I mean, everyone just treats it like either a joke or just not there. But the dude is like practically just short of eating paste, for God's sake. It's really, really disturbing, actually, if you think about it. Okay, let's move on then. All right, this film makes the point that Michael Keaton's character is pressed for time and money, but he gets contentious about Annie McDowell getting back to work. But we see that she has parents willing to help them, so why is that not addressed first before cloning himself? Because it's very weird. He never mentions the parents at the beginning when he has that argument, oh, you can't work, and oh, we got to pay for childcare, blah, blah, blah. And then later in the film, say, oh, she's leaving you, she went to her parents, which is fairly just a drive away.
Yeah. Because they can't, her parents can't help them in a way. His problem is that he prioritizes work over and above everything else always. And work takes advantage of that and always has more work for him to do. His in-laws can't fix that. There's nothing they can do that would address that.
Not the work thing, but they certainly address in terms of the kids being home and like, oh, someone's got to take care of the kids. But the wife can't work. Yeah, she can't work. Well, the kids can stay at the grandparents. I mean, it's just weird that they they're there, but they don't mention it until later. Then suddenly they're there, and then
they're suddenly there when she's about to leave her husband.
When they needed a plot point.
Well, it also doesn't sound like maybe they were available for that level of involvement until it was emergency time.
I guess. I mean, they never really address it. We never really hear from them, so we don't know.
No.
Just interesting that they're there, though. Now, this is our second Michael Keaton movie where he's an incompetent father who slowly learns to get his act together.
Does he? Does he ever actually learn to get his act together?
We'll get into that. So we also think this in Mrs. Doubtfire and That's My Boy and several other films. Why is this trope so popular? And do the men ever really learn anything at the end? Because as you're saying, yeah, I don't think he learns much of anything other than he can get away with lying to his wife. He doesn't. What does he learn at the end of this picture? And what do they learn in all these pictures? They're all rewarded at the end. They all end up getting what they want.
His life situation at the end of this movie has changed. He is no longer employed at the contracting firm that was sucking up all his time, and he's considering starting his own contracting firm, which he has the experience and knowledge to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as they have the savings to do that, then that's the direction he can take. And in doing so, he can set his own hours and prioritize things better. I think he ended up in a better position, but not because he intended to.
He's in a better position for sure.
He just landed.
What does he really learn?
He doesn't. That's the thing. I mean, he does. So one thing is he didn't murder his clones when all of them slept with his wife. So
that's something he learned.
I mean, it's hard.
Also,
that's a hard thing to get over. For a lot of people.
But here's the thing, and honestly, the fact that he made it a rule, he should have known already. They're my clones, so I'm attracted to my wife. Obviously, they're also going to be attracted to my wife. Of course they want to sleep with her. I want to sleep with her. Dude, that alone should have been, maybe this cloning isn't a good idea. If you don't want them banging your wife, of course they're going to want to bang your wife. They're you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I don't think he actually learns anything. I don't think any man ever learns anything in these movies, because it's not supposed to. Because that's too much to put on men who are watching the movie to deal with. They want to laugh at this shit, and then that's it. They don't want to have to actually learn a lesson.
Well, these films are popular, this sort of theme, so I guess you're right.
Uh-huh.
It isn't giving anyone what they want. They don't want to really learn anything. The guy has some superficial changes, but basically he's the same douche he is at the beginning of the film. In this case, he's just have more time. Okay. And he finally repairs the house we were supposed to do. Wow. What a great man. Freaking Robin Williams gets the, granted, thank God he does not get back with his wife in that picture. I'll give it credit for that. But other than that, he's still rewarded with a new job and he gets to have the kids and everything after lying and gaslighting his wife or his ex-wife and doing all sorts of, nearly killing someone. I mean, if you stop to think about some really fucked up things in that picture, but what's the big deal? And let's not even get into That's My Boy.
No, let's not. That's the one I was trying to think of the name of the other day.
That is really rough sales there, so I don't know, man. But yeah, they keep making these pictures. People love them, so. Which brings us to the final question. Does this film still work?
I don't think so. And I think it revolves much around Clone 4. And to a lesser extent, Clone 3. Which necessarily means also Clone 2. So, no, I don't think this works. Because it sort of implies interesting questions that it doesn't actually explore. And
no,
that's a flag on that play. You don't get to tease that philosophy and not actually do anything with it, asshole. Fuck you, Harold Ramis.
Yeah, I don't think this film works whatsoever. I didn't care about the characters. I didn't laugh at all during the entire thing. I actually had to stop because I was nodding off during the movie and watch it later.
It didn't have to be 2 hours long. That's for fucking sure.
It didn't have to be that long, and they just weren't that interesting. And I mean, I get the technical part of it probably is very interesting in 1996. The technology now is way better, but it was pretty good then with him talking to himself. That's, they did a good job there. But beyond that, why am I following this man? Why do I care anything about him? Why do I care about his family? He doesn't seem to care that much about himself.
Yep.
So yeah, no, it doesn't work. And of course, the most problematic, of course, is the character was developmentally disabled, but he's not. Ha ha ha. And
but he's not because he didn't develop. He just popped into existence.
Yes, he popped into existence.
He's just disabled.
And it's just awful. Anyway, let's move on to what's up next.
Next week, we'll be talking about, I don't know, not a terribly different movie? I haven't seen it, but Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle from 2004.
A very, very different movie.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's at least in the comedy genre.
It is in the comedy genre, yes. And it is about two guys who go to White Castle. And
I haven't had White Castle in a long time.
Do you remember our biggest discovery on this very podcast about White Castle? They used to have regular-sized burgers.
Yep.
Because we saw, not Disco Fever. What the hell is that movie?
Saturday Night Fever.
Saturday Night Fever. And he's in a restaurant at a White Castle, and the burgers are huge. I'm like, what happened? Could someone please find out for us, why did White Castle suddenly become small burgers? Because at one time they were huge burgers. It's really weird. I was really shocked when I saw that. It's like when I went out of, the first time I went to a Pizza Hut outside of New York City, the pizza's actually huge.
Yeah.
Here in New York, they're tiny. I went out, I thought that was true everywhere. Then I go outside the city, I'm like, what the hell? These are normal-sized pizzas. Oh, what you discover when you travel and movies. So I guess that's it for this episode. I'm Joe Dixon. Thanks for listening.
I'm George Romaka. Thanks for listening indeed, because if a podcast drops and there's nobody around to hear it, it's just another collection of ones and zeros that doesn't matter.
You've been listening to Does This Still Work? Produced by Joe Dixon and George Romaka.
This content is CAN credentialed, which means you can report instances of harassment, abuse, or other harm on their hotline at 617-249-4255 or on their website at creatoraccountabilitynetwork.org.
The hosts can be reached via social media, email, or the contact page at dtswpod.com. Be good to yourself and others, because that still works.
I didn't write a fucking segue. God damn it. All right, well. Dear Ann Landers, I am divorced and remarried. Hey, me too. This one has a headline. Wife moved to couch. Dear Dr. Ruth, I am 40 years old and have been with my wife for 12 years. Hey, Dan, I have a rather tricky situation on my hands. I'm 25 years old and have a 27-year-old boyfriend.